Hi there, welcome to the channel, welcome back if you're a return viewer. Now today I'm going to break tradition and do yet another book haul. I wasn't planning to do this one, but this itch to make a video started growing in me in the last couple of days, and I decided to do one on the books that I picked up at the Christchurch City Library's big annual sale a couple of weeks ago. 2 weekends ago they held this sale at the Summerfield Pioneer Sports and Leisure Centre. It's kind of like a complex with a swimming pools and indoor gymnasium and all that type of thing. It's in the southwest part of Christchurch, and it usually takes me a couple of bus trips to get there. I've only been there 2 or 3 times. I think 2019 and 2021. Last year it was held at a different time of year because of COVID, and I was unable to attend because I was working. Have copious free time this year, so I set out on an expedition to the Pioneer Leisure Centre. Like I said, it usually takes 2 bus trips to get there. This time it took 3. The bus system's in a bit of a poor state at the moment because of lack of drivers and whatever other excuses are given. I usually take a bus to the suburb of Shirley, and then from there the Orbiter bus, which is a lime green painted bus which goes around the perimeter of Christchurch and stops at the Pioneer Centre. Now these buses are supposed to run about every 15 minutes, and for whatever reason, whatever excuse they have, they were running about once every 45 minutes on the day. So that was a couple of Fridays ago, the 24th I believe it was. So I finally got on the bus and I was on my way, and I thought, alright, on my way. And then the Orbiter bus stopped at a mall, the Eastgate Mall, and the driver said, oh, we're stopping here, you have to get back on to another bus. So all out, it was 6 bus trips to get there and back. A little pissed off at that. I'm not sure what's wrong with the bus service. Every time something goes wrong they bring out another excuses. First it was COVID, and then it was the now it's a lack of drivers, but they put the pay for the drivers up several times, and doesn't seem to be fixing it. The buses have become unreliable, and I'm a long-term bus user. I don't drive. I've used buses for 25 years, more than that, 30 years. And they used to be probably the best bus system in the entire country in here in Christchurch. Whatever's happened, it's happened all over our country for some reason. Public transport is, when it's really needed, it has gone into a bit of a decline for some reason. The car seems to rule, and anyone who wants to change that faces an uphill battle. So enough of that. So like I said, I went to the Christchurch City Library's big library sale Friday before last at the Pioneer Centre. I got there, set up much the same as they have had other years that I've attended. Here's some footage now, and as you can see, it's pretty much a big sports hall filled with tables of books which you sort through. I really had to triage what I was looking for, so I spent a lot of time on the fiction and inched my way around the fiction section looking for sci-fi and fantasy mainly. That's what was the taste of things that I had at the time. Looked at some of the other science and travel books. Overall I spent about an hour and a half there. It was not as long as I had intended, but just about every book I picked up was a hardcover, and by the time I got 9 hardcovers and 1 soft cover, I was aching trying to carry them all around. So I decided to call it a day and go to the counter and get the books counted and paid for. They were $3 each, so 10 books came to $30. Quite a bargain. For some of the books are quite new, and you'd probably pay quite more than $3 just buying them used online or at a second-hand shop. So without further ado, let's see what I picked up. Now this one is Beautiful You by Chuck Palahniuk. I think that's the correct way of saying his name. Now this is a tale about somebody involved in the sex aid business or something like that. I'm not entirely sure of the plot. I was a big fan of Mr. Palahniuk in the 90s, and one day in the late 90s I picked a book up off a remainder pile outside of a bookshop, and it was the book Fight Club, which I only had vague ideas about it at the time, and I really enjoyed it. And about 6 months later, the movie Fight Club came out, and I became, and it was adapted really well, very close to the book. And I became a fan of Chuck's writing. He was kind of a bit edgy, 90s, early 2000s edgy, just what a young man might be into. We might call him a bit of an edgelord now. You know, he was straightforward and direct to the point, and smart and ironic and sarcastic, and all those type of things that really fires your enthusiasm when you read them at a certain point in your life. And I would buy his books as I saw them arrive in shops, and I was buying his books through to the mid-2000s. About 2006 I bought the last hardcovers of his book. I think it was Pygmy was the last one I bought. And then I realised I wasn't actually reading his books anymore. I was more collecting them than reading them, so I stopped buying them. I think I did pick up a copy of, he went into a non-fiction area, and there was a book called, I think, non-fiction. It was called something else in other markets. And it was actually a collection of essays, and he delved into his family history and things like that. And that was actually, I found, more interesting than a lot of his fiction. So I still, you know, keep tabs on him, visit his website. I do have another non-fiction book by him that I haven't read yet. So this is added to the pile. So that is Beautiful You by Chuck Palahniuk. Okay, next up, Abominable Science, Origins of the Yeti, Nessie and Other Famous Cryptids. Now, this is a non-fiction book, obviously. Skeptical look at all the things I just mentioned, the Loch Ness Monster, the Abominable Snowman, Yeti, whatever you want to call it. Looks at myths and legends and all the cockamamie things people have come up with. Might be interesting. Sometimes these books are a little too cynical, a little too smart-ass towards the things involved. I'm not a true believer in any of those things, but even I find sometimes the skeptics get a little too arch-skeptic, and it kind of ruins the fun of the topic, because let's be honest, most of these things are rubbish, but they have become like a layer of folklore on our culture, and you kind of dismiss that at your own peril. It's kind of like our Western culture's folklore includes these things like the Loch Ness Monster, and you can delve into them, and for whatever reason, why these stories arrive, why people believe in them. I think it's a interest in itself, much the same as ufology, if you like to call it. These things are influenced by our society and to say something about our society, so it's fun to look at them and pick holes in them. I'm not going to dismiss that. It depends probably on your mood at the time. Do you want the cynical, or do you want the folklore stories? So that's Abominable Science! By Daniel Loxton and Donald Prothero. Next up, The Gradual by Christopher Priest. Now, Christopher Priest is a British author of slightly surreal, slightly odd, off-kilter science fiction and speculative fiction, maybe. I have used the description they use like the British Philip K. Dick, but probably that's not a terribly close analogy. But he kind of scratches the same itch as some of the Philip K. Dick short stories and that type of thing. This goes back to his playground of the archipelago, the Dream Archipelago, kind of a setting that he uses for a lot of his books. I don't know a hell of a lot about what else is going on in this book. I remember seeing it online, and I do grab Christopher Priest's books when I find them. I went through a phase of buying a lot of his books secondhand. Haven't actually read a huge amount of them. The ones I have read I really enjoyed. This famous one was, like, of course, The Prestige, which was made into a movie by Christopher Nolan. He's done a lot of other ones, some of them more successful than others. I'm trying to think of the one about the guy who lives faster than the rest of us. Can't remember the title of that one. Oh, The Glamour. That's right. That was a bit of a head scratcher as well. So this one, blah 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 blah. Someone living in a fascist state, wants to go move somewhere and make music. There we go. So that's The Gradual by Christopher Priest. You probably know more about it than me at this point. Coming next, 84K by Claire North. Another book I don't know a huge amount about, but I like Claire North. Her book, The 15 Lives of Harry August, I think it was an excellent kind of Groundhog Day, repeating lifetime twister type thing, and I've seen her interviewed several times, and she comes across as a really switched on woman. I believe she still does the writing as like a after hours gig, and she works on theatre lighting and theatre design as her day job. This one, the story, another mystery to me really. Theo Miller knows the value of human life to the very last penny. Working in the criminal order office, he assesses each crime that crosses his desk, makes sure the correct debt to society is paid in full. But when his ex-lover is killed, it's different. This is one death he can't let become merely an entry in a balance sheet, because when the richest in the world are getting away with murder, sometimes the numbers don't add up. I know this one has had a lot of acclaim. I'm not really sure what even genre it is. Sounds like crime fiction thriller, but you know, in Claire North there's always a dose of science fiction and fantasy involved. So that's 84K by Claire North. Now this is an author I do know more about, M. John Harrison. Now he was one of the new wave science fiction authors in the 60s, early 70s. Continued writing till the present day. I have read several of his books, the latter day ones he did with Light and Nova Swing and that type of series. It's very impressionist, very detailed in some ways, but kind of airy-fairy, surreal in other ways. His books usually put you into more of a feeling, kind of a mood, rather than any impressive space opera type thing, even though some of them may be classed as that. I do have one of his older books, The Century Device, which everyone recommends to me, but I still haven't read it. Now this one, You Should Come With Me, is a collection of short stories. It's subtitled Ghost Stories or something like that. But knowing M. John Harrison, they're not going to be straight ghost stories. There's a number of stories in here, quite a lot. At least 20, 30. Some of them must be very short to fit in a book of this size. So that is You Should Come With Me by M. John Harrison. Okay, getting into the book box again. The Ministry for the Future. Now I know a lot of people have high praise for this book by Kim Stanley Robinson. It's what they call cli-fi or climate fiction. It's about an organisation which is set up under the UN to basically ensure a better future for mankind in the view of the climate catastrophe coming. And I know that a lot of people have commented on the opening of this book as a thermal event or something in India, which is supposed to be very, very harrowing, lots of people dying and suffering. And then it follows a couple of characters as they get involved in various efforts to save the future of mankind, to stop climate disaster from happening. A lot of people give this lots of praise. I'm kind of hazy whether I really want to read that type of thing right now, so I'll put it on the to-read pile, but maybe not right away. So that is Ministry for the Future. Next up, Are Numbers Real by Brian Clegg. Now I know Brian Clegg is the creator of a website called Popular Science, no relation to the magazine of that name, where he reviews various popular science books, as the title suggests, and he gives you an honest appraisal of where they succeed and fail. It's quite a useful site if you are looking for a lot of popular science books, to find one to read or to keep in mind next time you're in a bookshop. I'm a little dodgy about him having his own books on the site sometimes. I've never read anything from him in book form before, only his website. So Are Numbers Real? Look at mathematics, and it's been something that's kind of scratched my noggin a bit over the years. A few years ago I got really into number theory and primes and the Riemann hypothesis, all that type of thing, how mathematics seems to describe the deepest levels of our reality, our universe, but does it? Is it all of something in our head that we've constructed which only seems to describe things because we're looking at it that way? Are numbers real? This is supposed to look at is mathematics a real thing out there in the universe, or is it all an illusion that we've created for ourselves? Now, that sounds interesting. I really want to dive into this book at some point soon. Hopefully it looks at those issues. I'm not the most elegant in describing them, but there's a certain mystery there, a certain big ideas, big mysteries. Kind of interests me. So that's Are Numbers Real by Brian Clegg. And this one's Rod Pyle's Curiosity. Looks at the development and launch and mission of the Mars Science Laboratory 2012, otherwise known as Curiosity, the rover which landed on Mars back in August 2012. I know the date well because it was the same day I was interviewed for a job, and they actually asked me about my interests, and I mentioned this, and we opened a bit of a rapport. Interesting book. There's quite a lot of photos. There's a bit of a background in space exploration and politics and all that type of thing. Probably a good backgrounder if you have an interest in this, or you need to write something about Curiosity. Quick reference there. So that is Curiosity by Rod Pyle, and I believe he is a member of the Space Hipsters Facebook group, which I am too. So that's an extra tick in his box for me. Next up, we have Stileito by Daniel O'Malley. Now, I have the first book in the series, which is The Rook. I have not read it. I bought it 5 years ago, I think, or maybe a little less. And this is the follow-up. I have the original in paperback. This, of course, is a hardcover, big fat hardcover. These books are yet another variation on a secret agency existing in the shadows to fight paranormal, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, threats. It's kind of like a trope that's been done to death now. Lots of books over the last 20 years have kind of followed that form. There's all the secret police forces, like the Rivers of London, that type of thing. And then the best one that I've read is probably Charles Stross's Laundry series, about the Laundry, which is a name for a secret organisation which fights monsters with advanced mathematics, which are similar to magic. This is the same type of thing. People swear by these books that they're really good. There's only been 2 so far as I know. So that is Stileito by Daniel O'Malley. And we get into the bottom of the box now. Double Helix by James D. Watson. This is an annotated and illustrated edition of a very old book now. And James Watson and Francis Crick were awarded a prize for discovering the structure of DNA in the 1950s. And Rosalind Franklin, I believe, was basically forgotten, and she's one that did all the legwork, taking the X-ray pictures and reassembling the X-ray pictures into a 3-dimensional model. She has been more prominent in the literature and in science and popular culture in the recent years, but for 40 odd years she was basically left out of the descriptions, and Watson and Crick got all the fame. And Watson was also quite notorious as some type of racist or eugenicist, that type of thing. He hasn't had a good reputation. I'm not sure how far they go to rehabilitate him in this book. Hopefully there's some notes on the controversies. Book does resonate with me on another level, because back in the 80s, I remember they showed a television movie called Life Story on TV here, and I managed to videotape it, and we watched it several times, and it starred Jeff Goldblum is Watson, and he put on a great performance, a very endearing character, as quirky guy as Jeff Goldblum always plays. It's a great movie if you can find it. Explains DNA and all that type of thing. I think Franklin gets a bit of a rough ride in that movie as well, but she does feature. I believe the movie was actually used as a basis for some type of educational CD-ROM back in the early days of the format, and it's available that way, or maybe online that way. I can't remember exactly. That is Life Story, and that is the same story as The Double Helix by James T. Watson. Okay, I've been talking for 20 minutes now. I think that is quite enough. It is a grey, dull, cold autumn's day here in Christchurch, New Zealand, and we're losing the light, so I better say goodbye. Subscribe, like, thumbs up if you like the video. This hopefully was a bit more relaxed than my reviews. I enjoy doing these book hauls more than I expected. I just get to talk my heart out basically, and I think I will leave you now. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.